Welcome to Community Talk, a public affairs presentation of the MSA United Way and Super Talk 1270. Now your host, Jenna Gullo.
Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Super Talk 1270. I am Jenna Gullo, the MSA United Way Executive Director, and co-hosting with me today, Mr. Scott Hansen from United Way.
Good morning.
Scott.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for helping out. Thanks for coordinating all these shows, and a special thank you to Town Square Media for donating this airtime. Every other Tuesday, you can find us right here talking about community issues that are important to you. If you do have suggestions, topics, comments, or questions, Scott, where do they go?
There are a bunch of ways. You can give us a call, 255-3601. Find us on Twitter at MSA United Way. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/MSAUway.
Well, what's really neat is that Scott posts a lot of the community needs on our Facebook page, so make sure you like us or share those needs, because many times there's going to be school counselors that will call us up. They might need a winter coat. Right now, we've adopted Saxvik Elementary. Our Women's Leadership Circle is collecting in-kind donations for them every single month at a different business. It's just outstanding, the work of the volunteers of United Way. And speaking of, we have two wonderful volunteers that are joining us in studio today with the annual campaign in full swing. It was pretty interesting. I did not know. I've presented to over 1,200 people in the community so far this campaign. Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that is crazy.
I should probably work on that speech a little bit. But with the campaign in full swing, we did think it was a great opportunity to share with our listeners a little bit about who we are at United Way. And we want to make sure people understand that we are a problem solver. We try to take a collective approach. So we partner with over 30 different nonprofits, the government, the businesses, the private sector, you name it, different community leaders. And thank the good Lord, people like you listening at home who are our volunteers who give of their time. So this really helps us to gain a deep understanding of what these complex issues are. And we do understand it's not United Way alone that's solving these, but that's the value of United Way, is that we bring people around the table to identify the gaps and solve them in the most efficient way possible. So someone driving the train at United Way, we have the president of the United Way Board of Directors, Dr. Steve Chuppe, in studio with us. Dr. Chuppe, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jenna. And I think it's a crazy train.
It's a crazy train.
Yes, especially this time of year, but I enjoy it a lot.
So, Dr. Chuppe, you and your brother have Chuppe Chiropractic in town here, and you both have just been phenomenal volunteers and donors and community supporters. It's not just the United Way that you're involved with and that you've been involved with, but you do a lot outside of United Way as well. So thank you for everything that you and your brother do.
Well, thank you, Jenna. But it's something we enjoy doing, so it's really not a chore for us. We like being out in the community, and we have a lot of patients involved with different things, so it's fun for us.
Well, and I think people like the fact that you give back to the community that they live in and that you care.
Well, I think so, but that's not really why we do it so much. We do it because we enjoy it, and we do like the aspect of giving back. I feel like over the course of my life, seeing some different things with different family members and things like that, I've seen how others can affect their lives and improve them through different agencies, like many of the agencies in United Way.
Absolutely. So we were talking about this yesterday. Have you figured out how long you've been involved with our United Way as a volunteer?
Well, I didn't pin it down exactly, but I think sometime pretty close to about 15 to 20 years.
No
all
kidding.
Told. Very involved for probably the past 15.
That is just awesome. You're a loyal contributor as well, giving as giving of your time.
Yes, we try to be, so.
Dr. Chuppe, what is it about United Way that has intrigued you, and how'd you get involved?
Well, that's a good question. I'd have to say that it wasn't anything other initially than just being asked to help with a campaign. Tim Hennessy, another longtime United Way supporter.
U.S. Bank president?
Yes, called me and asked if I could help out with one of the divisions in the campaign. And I offered that I would help, but I said the only way I would do it is if I had a chance to look through what United Way did, what all it was about, and I wanted to feel good about if I was asking people to donate, that I wanted to feel good that it was something that they should be donating to, that I'd looked it over thoroughly, and it was a good cause. And boy, it didn't take long for me to start peeling back the layers of United Way and seeing what all it does in the community. And it was a very easy yes every time I was asked after that.
Well, people may not realize that we operate based on good volunteers like yourself. Our entire campaign cabinet is filled with volunteers. So tell our listeners, what is the campaign cabinet, and what you do as a volunteer in that sector?
Well, the campaign cabinet essentially tries to identify all the potential donors in the community and just tries to get the word out about all the wonderful things that United Way does to help our agencies. And then they go to work trying to get donations from those people. And I'll tell you, it's a lot of work doing the campaign. I know it is for the United Way staff, but it is also a lot of work for the campaign cabinet. And it's just a lot of fun to see what all they do and just knowing how much effort they put into it. But as much work as it is, it's actually kind of fun too. It's especially fun when you're done.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really inspiring. As a staff member of United Way, I find it inspiring, the amount of time and energy that those volunteers put in, above and beyond their everyday job. For me, this is my job, but for you guys, this is, above and beyond the everyday. So what is it? What is it that motivates you, that inspires you to?
Well, a couple of things. I guess, like I said, I've seen what all United Way does in the community, and I really appreciate that. But I don't tell many people this really, but I have a younger brother who's handicapped, and I see what all agencies have done for him along the way. And so from a personal side, it means a lot to me. I feel like I would do it otherwise, knowing what all United Way does. But it gives me a real personal feel for what the agencies do and all the volunteer work that they do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And many people don't realize that there is a strong likelihood that someone they know or someone who's very close to them has needed United Way sometime in their life. It could be through the Red Cross, through having a fire in your home, could be through a family member. I mean, there's many people that don't even realize many of their colleagues could be victims of domestic violence. We gave a presentation at a local bank, and afterwards a gal came up to us crying because one of our agencies, she said, literally saved my life. So it's the power of United Way to really connect these agencies together. But it's also, how do we make the most of the donor dollar? And I want to get your input on that, Dr. Chuppe, on when we come back after break about, what is it about United Way that appeals to you as a businessman, and what helps other people want to become more involved. So we will be back in just a couple minutes here. Make sure you log on to our Facebook page. That's Facebook.com/MSAU Way. Give us a call if you want to get involved as a volunteer. That's 701-255-3601. And we will be back in just a couple of minutes to learn more from MSA United Way Board President Dr. Steve Chuppe. Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. A special thank you to Mr. Jim Walsh at Super Talk 1270 and Town Square Media for donating this airtime. We are on air every other Tuesday from 11 to 12. And so if you have any suggestions, you have any comments, you have anything that you want to give to talk about, Scott, how do they get in touch with us?
You can find us on Twitter at MSA United Way. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/MSA United Way, or MSAU Way. You can also give us a call at 255-3601. If you have any ideas for topics, questions for guests, please do let us know. We'd love to hear your input.
The way we work at United Way, it's based on the power of volunteers and the power of giving back and everyone coming together to solve community needs. And so we would only be able to do that when good people come together to really try to make this work and make it the most efficient and effective way to give back. Later in the program, you will be hearing from Mr. Vern Dosh, the CEO of NISC in Mandan, North Dakota. Mr. Vern Dosh is co-chairing this campaign with Monsignor James Shea from the University of Mary and Paul Sukett, CEO of Basin Electric. So Vern's going to be talking to us about his role as the campaign chair and why people should choose United Way as their way to give back. But with us still in studio is Dr. Chuppe. And I have to tell you, Dr. Chuppe, Dr. Stephen Chuppe from Chuppe Chiropractic. Dr. Chuppe, as our board president, you have just done an outstanding job all year, as did your predecessor, Mr. Kraft. We should give a shout out to Mr. Terry Kraft at American Family Insurance. But it's interesting because I've learned so much working with you over the course of the last 5+ years at United Way. And I just have to thank you. Thank you for not only your leadership qualities, but for everything that you do to teach me and our staff and our community what it is that the qualities of a good leader. And one thing you actually told me that I just repeated last night to my foster child, I have a 14-year-old staying with me, is you said, Jenna, I try to surround myself with good people. And I've really taken that to heart because that's what I feel like we are at United Way. And that's one of the benefits of being able to work at United Way is taking that opportunity to really get to know our volunteers and having the chance to be surrounded by such great people like yourself. So thank you for instilling that in me and also for living that.
Well, thank you, Jenna. And I don't feel I deserve that level of credit, certainly, but I can say this for certain, and that is that being around the people at United Way, the staff, the volunteers, the agencies, there are just so many good people in there that it's really enjoyable to work with that. I serve on several boards and I enjoy every one of them, but United Way is so special because of the people in it, and that is entirely what it is. They are volunteer help workers, such good quality people, and I feel like it's really made a great impact on my life personally. I've really enjoyed working with your group.
Well, we appreciate the time that you give. And you had talked earlier about your role in the campaign cabinet, but you also have been a major player the last 2 decades at United Way in how those dollars are spent. And you've been on our community impact committees. Tell our listeners a little bit about what that means. Well,
when I had first looked into United Way, I wanted to see what they served and what all they did. And I saw the agencies that it served. I saw that all that it did. But as I got further into United Way, I was asked to serve on the allocation boards where we determine how the money gets spent and where it goes. And I've been so incredibly impressed with the people that have been involved with that. They are community leaders. They are very wise people. They understand finances. They understand how agencies work. And they not only look at the numbers and how those agencies have to affect change in our community, whether it be through providing food for elderly, whether it be providing domestic violence assistance, whether it be providing homeless shelter, those types of things. It just makes such a huge difference with what they do. And they make good decisions as far as where those dollars go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not an easy decision to make. There's been times where you have been involved in having to cut agencies, and that's not fun. And it doesn't happen automatically. I mean, you try to do what you can to work with those agencies.
Yes, it's extremely difficult, but it's been rare, thankfully. But that we look really close. We don't only look at the numbers. We actually look at the agencies. We go talk to them. We see that the people that they affect and the people that they're helping. And we want to make sure that every dollar is spent wisely. For example, if someone gives $1 to United Way, what happens with that dollar? I want to know that. When I ask people to donate money, my name is on the line. I want to make sure that my reputation is strong for what United Way gives or what they do with that money. And I would say for every dollar that goes to United Way, at least $5 comes out of it, because that money is used against volunteer help. It's used to affect agencies that are really leveraging and getting by with not a lot of money, but they're doing so much in our community. It's incredible what they do with limited resources.
And there are programs like YouthWorks where Doug Herzog would always say, every dollar you give me, we turn it into 10 because I use my United Way funds as that local match for the federal grants. So it's multiplying, and it's the best investment for what you're giving.
That's a wonderful example, and in anyone that would go in there, that's really deep in my my love for United Way, really, because I've gone to YouthWorks and I've seen the kids that are there. I've seen the people that are there. I've seen Doug at work, and he spends your dollar really wisely. I would not be surprised at all if it was more than 10 that you get back from that, because he just puts so much energy into it. And with the dollars that they have, they can use volunteer help to come in and help. But they do need some dollars to run their organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Recently you and your brother Greg gave to our endowment fund. Tell us a little bit about that decision.
Well, I normally don't like to talk that much about what we do from a giving side, but I can say this with some enthusiasm. Through the endowment fund, it really has allowed us to leverage the dollar further. For a $5,000 donation, there's a tax credit that we receive, and effectively, depending which tax bracket you're in, for the most part, you end up only spending $2,000. You donate $5,000, but with your tax credit that you get back, you essentially end up spending $2,000. And so it's like you're giving 60% more than what you really gave. So it's, again, a nice way of leveraging a volunteer or a donated dollar.
Well, and thank you for that, because with that 40% tax credit, you have the out-of-pocket cost, which is a third of what you're giving. And those dollars are going to be saved in that endowment fund so that eventually our goal is that the interest pays for all of the operations at our United Way. Quick question. We are so appreciative and of the people surrounding you, because we know it's not just a one-man operation here that you got going. Your wife, Deb, is a huge support, and she's done a lot of work behind the scenes. So I want to make sure that we recognize her and thank her for all of the support that she provides to you to be able to have you provide all of this time and help to us and many other community organizations.
It's really incredible how much behind the scenes work that she does for me. And I think anyone who does community volunteer work and things like that know how much a spouse does. She does so much for me, and I always joke that she's the brains of our operation, and she is. But a lot of the things that I'm sometimes unable to do because I might be doing some community things, she covers for me, and I sure appreciate that.
So do we.
We talked about having good people around you. You know?
Absolutely.
And she, for me, is the number one that starts with that. But when we look at all the good people that are in the board, like the volunteers that have been there for years, the people in the campaign cabinet, you folks on staff, it's incredible how much you do and how nice it is to be around such good people. It makes me a better person, really.
So for people out there who don't currently choose United Way, they might be very generous, they might give to other organizations. What's your approach? What do you want them to know?
It's very simple. Coming from a smaller community, I went to high school in Scranton. I didn't know what United Way was when I came to Bismarck. But when I started to see what all they did, how all they affected everything, it kind of it made me realize how important it was to use that as sort of a cornerstone of my donation plan and system. I think most of the people in our community are generous with their church, and they're donating to various causes that they appreciate. And once you get past your church donation, United Way should be absolutely right there. It affects so much of what our community does. It's so wisely spent. I just can't think of another organization that would more wisely spend every dollar that we put out there and how much change it affects in our community. So I use that as my cornerstone, and then the other things that kind of filter around it that are more pet projects, we still do that. But United Way is absolutely the rock that we start with.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Chuppe, not just for your monetary donations, but of the time from you, from Deb, from your beautiful daughter, Maya, from everybody on our board. Thank you for everything that you give back through United Way. If you're listening out there, you want to get more involved, call our United Way office, 7